This episode of Super Pulp Science is brought to you by the Maddox Warriors 2025 Superhero Run. This September 13th at 8 a.m., it's a 5 or 10K run. It's for a great cause, and you can sign up now.
Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. I'm joined by Justin Curry, who's known the world over as Chasing Artwork. I'm also joined by Chasing Artwork, who's known in Montreal as Lyndon Rachanka. Thanks for coming on the show, guys.
Oui.
We are fresh from the Montreal Comic-Con, and we have many stories to tell about that. First, why don't you explain to our dear listeners why it is that I introduced you the way I did?
Well, this year I have a brand new kiddo that I'm trying to spend as much time with as possible. And luckily for me, we also have the very talented showman Lyndon in the studio who can do shows for me on occasion. So I sent him off to Montreal to proxy for me at Montreal. And this is it's great because Gregory's going as well, so we can share hotel, and they're setting up together. So it's the best case scenario to send somebody to proxy.
I reflected on it after one meal alone because Gregory showed up early on the Friday morning of the show before it began, and I had already been in Montreal. So I had to spend one day on my own setting up and then eating alone, and I thought, I don't know if I would do this on my own. I'm glad Gregory's coming.
Really, I find the being by myself in strange cities absolutely fascinating and wonderful. And it's funny you say this because when I talk to other people, they also do not like it. Other book tour friends I have, they do not like being alone. They do not like eating alone. They do not like walking around the city alone. I'm not sure what's wrong with me then because I really like it. One night, you were like, I'm turning in early. I'm like, I'm going to go walk the city by myself.
Yep.
See you later.
Hey, remember when I started this and I didn't have any convention friends yet? I hadn't really met anybody in the industry, and seeing the groups of people after the show that get together and they're clearly off into some adventure. I'm like, oh, someday I'll have that.
One day I'll have an idiosyncratic social group.
Yeah, so for the full context for the listener, I had already been in Montreal before the show started for 4 days with my wife because I had never been to Montreal before. So I wanted Great city. Wanted to experience the city of Montreal. So maybe it was the hangover of having company for 4 days straight and then being alone for
maybe it's
hours?
the dread of being with someone you loved and they left and now someone else was coming.
Now it's time to work.
Yeah.
Would you rather do, because I've done this with different shows before, and so for both of you guys, would you rather do the convention and then have vacation, or vacation and then convention?
Definitely vacation, then convention.
Really?
Reverse.
I'm reversed too.
Then vacation.
Yeah, it's the stress of is it going to go well will always be present during the vacation.
And is there something I should be doing instead of relaxing right now? Oh, one more detail that I should have taken care of. And
no, and it's because by the time the convention is over and I've spent 4 days, 10 hours a day standing, all I want to do is go home and do nothing for a couple of days.
Okay, that's fair.
Whereas if I'm on vacation, I always feel motivated to go out and do things because I'm in a new city. I've paid to be here. I want to go and experience the culture and the city, especially in Montreal. So the idea of doing a 4-day show of standing for 40 hours and then having 3 days ahead of me where I have an sort of obligation to do something.
Kilometers a day.
Yeah, it sounds horrible. I would never want to do that.
oh, it's the best. It's the best. Highly recommend. Would recommend. Would do again. I had been to Ottawa the few days before. My sister lives in Ottawa, and when I do the Ottawa show, which I'm not sure if I'll be doing normally or the way I want to do it this year, so I made the excuse to go early, see my sister, spend a few days in Ottawa, and then we drove in at the crack of dawn, 5 a.m. or whatever, to go set up for the Montreal show.
Wow, so you were in 2 cities last week.
2 cities, 2 adventures. And, man, I cannot say enough things about how surprised I was by the response to the French-speaking community, to the giant pile of English books that I brought. You would think that would not work. But in fact, I sold out of every book that I brought. I had 0 books left by, I would say, the first hour of the show on Sunday.
So people are hungry for books in Montreal.
Yeah, it was like really strong reading public, a lot of return readers.
But you brought books to Montreal before.
Yeah.
What was different this year that you've just brought more books? Or
I don't know.
You don't know?
What I'm saying is, thanks, Montreal. I had a kind of surprised and delighted me is really the punchline here.
We should point out, we point out a lot that shows change all the time. Every year, people are kind of after different things. Every city, people are like after different things. We never figure out our booth and like it stays. It is always static. It's always evolving. It's always changing because the crowd is always after different stuff.
I made alterations to the Chasing Artwork booth mid-show.
Mid-show, I
Gregory-
usually wait till the end of
Gregory
the
helped
day.
me. It was like the middle of Friday morning.
Okay. Yeah, how'd set up?
He saw a need and
Saw
he
a
went
need, yeah.
for it. Yeah.
So was it the flow of traffic or how things were arranged? What did you change? Why?
I wasn't tall enough.
Oh,
I made the towers.
oh,
I made the middle tower to go with the other 2 towers.
and it was just like your eyes peeking over. Or...
Not well originally. So for the dear listener, the way the booth was set up was we had 3 tables in line, which anyone who listened in the past means that there's no end caps at a show like this. You're just in the row, and so the Chasing Artwork table had 3 tables side by side by side.
Were those 6 foot or 8 foot? They were 6.
They were
right?
6 foot.
So then
Yeah.
18 feet, about 20 feet long.
And at each end of that 18-foot giant table were the 2 trademark Chasing Artwork light-up pillars so that wayward souls could find their way to us.
It's so true. Yeah.
And originally...
Beacons in the dim convention light.
And part of the setup materials that I had were these 24 by... Are they 24...
At 36.
They're by 36. The backings with all the posters on them.
24 by 36.
So 24 by 36. And originally in my setup, I had built one of these right in the middle of the booth so that it created 2 sort of distinct stations that people could stop.
Because there's only one of you as well, so you have to be like cognizant of like there's a crowd of people coming at the booth. They have to know they can't just access you from every part of that booth. There's only like 2 spots where they can talk to the person behind the booth.
Right. So originally I'd only made 1 layer of this. And that let me sort of peek over the middle of the booth so that I could see everyone all the way along. But I was, I wanted to, I don't know what really inspired it. I think I just wanted to get more of the artwork visible to people passing by so that they didn't need to flip through the art books if they weren't available at the
If
time.
I may point out,
Blasphemy.
what may have been occurring is that Lyndon, who you asked to like do a good job, decided maybe I can do a better job, and then he tried to improve midstream.
So yeah, in the middle of the Saturday morning, I was standing behind this wall of 24 by this basically like tower of 24 by 36 cube of posters, and I went, this could be higher.
Bigger.
And I had
It's a phrase uttered at Comic-Cons during setup all the time.
That's right. I wonder if I can make this stand even taller.
Yeah, so I had a couple of those backings that I hadn't used in my setup, and so I very quickly taped them up with the way that we set them up is they basically stack on one another, and then there's a board that goes behind them that you tape to hold them in place.
Support.
And I taped those up. I like balanced on the top of the bins so that I could reach the top in place. Gregory ran over to hold the corners so that I could make sure to tape the corners in.
I could see it happening. I could see the whole thing. And I was like, someone's got to do something.
And up went the tower in the middle. So then we were 3. And I genuinely think that helped. The ones that I stuck up high, facing the row, the closest to the row, were actually the backing boards that had thumbnails on them.
Oh yeah.
So that you could basically stand a little ways away from them and still see all of the art
Perfect.
on the thumbnails.
It created utility for the interested, and I think that's why it was a good move.
You know what, Hugh? If I really, really hustle, my son is going to have it all.
Now, you speak French, although the smile he's making is like, well, there's a difference between speaking French and speaking French, Gary. I speak no French. How often was the French language
Utilized?
utilized
3/4.
3/4.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's because, I mean, I made an effort to speak French with pretty or anyone who came up that had any sort of accent, even if they started.
But I've
Good English.
heard that you lived in Paris for a while, and
did.
Paris French is very different than Montreal French.
It is. But the fun thing is, when you're bad at speaking French,
Okay.
you're bad at speaking both versions of French.
Okay, so they don't mind.
And so, like, I don't speak French very well, but I can speak French well enough to communicate with someone in French that I'm a beginner in French, and if you speak slowly with me, then I can understand. But because Montreal is almost an entirely bilingual city, we got to utilize what we used to call in France franglais, which is French and English, and you sort of jump between the two with no logic.
I found that interesting as a person describing books, and people would describe their experience reading either my books or another books, and they would switch between French and English as they would get more excited about what they were talking about. Like, you know, one of the most wonderful things about Comic-Cons is people's loves are on display. Like the fandom that they identify with, they cannot wait to talk to someone who actually gives a shit about this little niche thing. And so if you get into that conversation, you speak a little bit faster, you get a little bit more excited. And when the language barrier would hit, they would just switch into French to like cover the excitement. And I would just have to like, I'm in for the ride. Yeah. Like, I'm going to do my best. Yeah. So,
but it was really interesting because there were some people so if I remember what the stats are, in Montreal, the percentage of people that are fully bilingual is something like 70%. But there are some people that will not speak English with you.
Yes.
Like, they will flat out refuse to speak English. So some interactions I had were all in English. Some were in French, and then we switched to English. Some were in English, and then we switched to French. And then there were some that were in French, and I would explain to someone, I don't speak French very well. And often the response to that is whoever I'm speaking to would go, oh, okay, well, I'll just speak English then, and we would be fine. Some people would just continue to speak in French and wouldn't slow down or anything, and so then I'm just along for the ride at the same time. But because I could speak enough French, even in those interactions, there were no people, like, Gregory, you told me the story that sometimes you have people come to your table that speak French with you, and when you tell them that you only speak English, they just walk away.
Yeah, that's
really?
happened. Yeah, that's definitely happened where they're just not interested in. But I mean, we're outsiders in a culture that is predominantly one language, right? And for someone listening in America, it might not be used to the notion of Canada having such a strict English-French divide in our provinces, but it's quite substantial. And honestly, it's a little bit beautiful. The polyglot that is finally arriving, like, this is a European idea that learning languages and the many tongues, I wish 100 years from now, we'll all be thrilled that there were so many French speakers.
I always found it like so like endearing and cool to watch in like the years that I've done in Montreal. Somebody at some point during the show would come and wouldn't speak any English at all, but then the other person next to them, they don't know each other.
Yes.
But they'd like get that person to translate to me. So they'd like just grab a stranger off the aisle and like continue the conversation with this new person involved.
Yeah. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I'm not great at speaking French, but I like to do it. It's fun. I feel my brain grow when I do it. And the fun thing about shows is you say the same thing 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So, like, after the first couple, the patter, you figure out the patter in French. I can explain, this costs this. Buy two, get a third one for free. You can't combine it with the art, with the exclusives, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you get really good at your numbers really quickly because you have to do math in French and explain the math to people in French. So it was really fun that...
I have anxiety trying to imagine doing that on the fly because, I have no facility with language to speak of. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a lot of fun speaking French. And even if, some people were like complimentary and they were like, oh no, you're doing a really good job. And some people I could tell were just like tolerating me, but they didn't it's not like they walked away or anything.
So if you're
still made it through.
A practical piece of advice, I will say a +1 to the setup that I didn't realize would be such a benefit in Montreal. I've improved my what we call table talkers, the signage about what each book is about. There's a little label so that a person doesn't have to ask me what this book is about. I have the slug line presented on a little card.
The book can
books.
sell itself without you involved.
That's right. And that really did help people who were interested in the book but could not converse with me in English. They were able to, like this is pretty common in language. I'm sure all of you are aware of, but I'll say it just for the purpose of this example. It can be easy to learn a language and be able to read it, but not feel comfortable enough to say it. So there are plenty of people, I think, that were buying books who had no trouble reading in English, but they were a little embarrassed to try and speak it. As embarrassed as I was to try and say please or thank you in French, right? So the table talkers went a long way for explaining the book in a way that they could decode quickly, easily, and carry on from there.
I just have a suggestion. Maybe bilingual table talkers in the future.
Yeah, I thought about it, but my problem is if I present French information, am I establishing a instant disappointment?
Right. When they read the book and there's zero
I
French.
can't deliver on the promise. Like the promise of the premise is I've thought about that many times. My friend Dan was like, I could absolutely translate your table talkers to be French, but I actually decided not to. It's a great idea, but I decided not to because I don't have the ability to follow up in French.
It's false expectations.
Yeah, I don't want to set a false expert. I'd rather them be like, oh, this simple guy can only speak one language. We can help him out.
Well, that was another thing that I found really interesting was that I had a handful of interactions with mostly young adults, actually, that would come up and they would speak in French with me, and I would speak French back with them, and then they'd go on a tear, and I would then have to say, okay, slow down, I'm a beginner in French, and then they'd say, okay, I will speak English then. And they would start speaking English, but then they would sort of interject themselves and apologize for their English. And I would have to be like, and I would respond in French, don't worry, your English is better than my French is. And that seemed to really, kind of break the tension there or encourage them.
Yeah, it was not without trepidation that I started doing shows in predominantly French-speaking province. The very first time I went to Quebec City to do a show, I brought James Gillespie with me, and he can speak French pretty darn good because he works for Canada's History magazine, and they have to do bilingual editions all the time. So he has a pretty good facility with it. Like yourself, not as good as maybe a native speaker, but good enough that we could get through. But mostly what I figured out is that everyone's just trying to do their best, and they're all there to be huge nerds, and so that was fine.
Yeah, and you were saying this show up from last year. Everybody was having a better show than last year.
I'm not sure if that was universally true, but people I talked to who had been in the game for a while, who are regularly kind of like what we were just talking about, trying to figure out a better way to do it all the time, and have been in it for a while, made a lot of mistakes. They were all up.
Great.
Everyone I talked to was up. A lot of first-timers, I think the barrier to entry now is people who have the one table, the small number of items, they don't have the presence. It's
the portfolio is still growing and it's not quite there yet.
I call it critical mass.
Yeah, there's a critical mass. The attention warfare is what I refer to it as. They're not quite, they don't have the ability to really capture a passerby's interest in a glance.
Right.
Even though their work is phenomenal and upon close inspection, if you're in a huge room full of things like that, it can get lost in the noise. So one thing I really admire about Prairie Comics Festival, this will inadvertently turn into a advertisement for Prairie Comics Festival, but they host these workshops, free workshops. So if you join their Discord and you follow up, Scott Ford usually runs them, like how to make your display, how to produce not only your work, but ways in which to present your work to the casual passerby so that people will stop and look closely. It is a skill.
Yeah, because
we've developed.
We've noticed at shows, sometimes you see a very, very talented artist, but zero effort has gone into the booth, and it's kind of disappointing to see. And then you see other people who, I don't think that painting took more than 3 hours, but they have hundreds of them, and they have a massive booth that stretches to the ceiling and has flashing lights, and everybody's going to this booth with the quick, sloppy paintings and passing over this guy who spent
laboring
3 months on a painting, but it's just laying flat on the table.
You don't mind me standing here, I hope. I mean, you're not afraid of getting contaminated or anything?
and you get the glowerers. We won't name any names, but there was a glowerer. The constructive criticism here is that if you are feeling jealous of the attention one booth has, staring at them angrily all convention is actually sending a message not to that person, but to the other passerbys.
Yeah.
Right? The stink is on you a little bit, right? So just that's my caution. It's my caution.
Speaking of Montreal Comic Con and people being up, I don't know how anyone makes any money in that convention center with the way their cell service works.
Oh my God, yes, that's right. It was crazy. There's always, well, let's not tell our trick, but there's so many, The
convention center is so bad for cell reception that on Saturday, my Square wouldn't work. And if we're talking about speaking, like trying to speak multiple languages,
right. Explain a problem.
The stress of having to jump between people to explain why it's taking 10 minutes to process a sale in both English and in French and to the people waiting because there's no cell reception is...
And to not lose your cool because you don't want to have the stank on you, right? Yeah.
But this is like year 4 of this problem. So most people know about it and brought cash.
There was a lot more cash than we would normally see. But the worst, I was talking to Craig about this, the worst part of this is that there were people that would come up to pay, and I would say, the cell service in this convention is really bad.
Welcome to the emergency wildfire state of alert message that we all received. Yeah, we all got one. So, dear listener, we live in a province where currently 70,000 people have been displaced by wildfires. And our emergency network has just informed us that another one is, breaking out. So, you've joined Life Already in Progress here in the province of Manitoba. Carry on.
Circling back. What drove me crazy at this show, especially on the Saturday, were the people that would come up to the table, they'd be ready to buy something, and I would say, "Oh, I'm really sorry, the internet is really slow in here. You'll have to bear with me if you want to pay by card."
Which is a great way to do it, to kind of tee that up. Right. So if it goes through, then it's like, yay, great surprise. But if it doesn't, it's not an awkward.
Let me ask you.
No.
I know. I want to ask.
Going.
No, but I want to ask Justin a question. Let's imagine this was a problem that you had all the time.
No. Don't ruin my punchline. And then these people would say to me, "Oh, it's like that every year. Here's my card." And I would go, "If you know it's a problem every year, why are you paying by card?"
Well, it used to be like that. Pretty much like every third sale, like back when card readers were kind of new. Yeah. Like I had some shows, especially sometimes in the States with like the different readers that I had to use. Like just every transaction was thinking forever, not connecting. Oh, this card doesn't work for this
Saturday
system. Yeah. So if you've been in this game for a while, you've gone through a lot of shows like that. Yeah. So when, most of our shows now, it works seamlessly. God, so great.
Oh, yeah. No, it's really...
We've started to take for granted the technology, which is why we have to be careful.
Yes, it's just this idea that someone's like, "Oh, yeah, it's bad every year, and I'm going to subject you to it even more."
Yeah, I could have stopped at that age.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be like this, but I didn't. Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, the internet's really slow. It's terrible." And they were like, "Yeah, you know what else is terrible? Going to get cash from the ATM." And I'm like, "All right, fine, I guess."
All right, so... I have a real thing I want to talk about. Well, real. It's pretty real. So, in Showland, there are a lot of opinions, right? Everyone has an opinion about something, right? We have an opinion. Our show is our opinion on Showland. And I've been thinking about the difference between opinions and ideas, right? And how it is reflected in the work that we do. And I'll connect it back to some things I saw at the show and in and around the show. But to give a direct example of what I mean in this context is I have a piece, we could call it a fan art piece of Dracula, right? It's a Dracula book cover that never existed that I designed. I love it. By definition, that is my opinion about Dracula, right? That's how I express my opinion about Dracula. I think he looks this way. I think it should be presented this way. And so I created this art piece that represents my opinion about a property, about a fandom that many people are aware of and know and love. The fact that it's in the public domain is not important. The idea is that everyone knows it. I know everyone knows it, and I have presented my opinion on this matter, and some people like it and some people don't. And how they vote for my opinion is they give me money for the piece of artwork, right? They're like literally voting with their dollars, agreeing with me. Oh, that is a great rendition of that. And I use this one as a very specific example because I've had it in my portfolio now for many years. It is a constant, regular seller, which means to me a lot of people have an opinion about Dracula that is the same as my opinion about Dracula, and that's why that piece has never wavered in its appeal to people. We have the same opinion. Mm-hmm. But on the same table, I have work that no one's ever heard of because it's from my properties, my ideas, my books, my compositions. So those are ideas. And it takes a lot longer for the idea I'm presenting to catch on with my regular customers or with convention crowds. They have to see it a lot more often before, to them, it seems like something they have an opinion on that they can agree with or disagree with in order to say, oh, I want that piece now that I have a relationship with it and I've formed an opinion. So what I want to talk to you guys about, because we all play in the fan art world, but we all have properties that we have labored much longer on for, and much more difficulty to create that are complete ideas. What's the difference that you see between presenting your idea at a show versus an opinion at a show in that context? And do we think that this is maybe why people who are new to the convention are struggling? Are they presenting too many ideas and not enough opinions? Or is it that their opinion is not agreed with if they're presenting that fan art? Or what do you think if we narrow it down into this framework of discussion between something someone recognizes and has an opinion on and something that is an idea that they have to be it has to be explained to them?
For me, I'm a bigger fan of when somebody's just kind of parroting somebody else's opinion, like they're doing a pinup of Superman that you've seen a million times before, and then a pinup of Spider-Man and Batman and Wonder Woman, and it's just kind of like almost cookie cutter, like there's none of them in there. And I'm using like just the broad examples. But when somebody...
So is that trend? We call that trend in this definition?
Well, in this context, they are just regurgitating what they know. They're not putting anything of themselves.
It's not even their opinion. It's not. Yeah. Repeating someone else's opinion they think is popular.
Just absolutely repeating. Yeah.
For money.
For money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hoping.
But when they take, Batman and redesign him as like medieval Batman with Joker, and they're on horses, and there's like a castle in the back of the set, I care. Now I'm on board with your opinion.
Now it's the singer, not the song.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
So that's me. I love fan art that has a lot of you, the artist, attached to it. That is clearly you have created this bubble world of fandom that is separate from its source material. Yeah. That's what I love to see.
And at the risk of putting you up on a pedestal, I think that's where your work shines beyond other work that is maybe fan art adjacent or based in and around that, because there's so much of your... there's so much stuff that isn't about the property, and it's about how you're expressing your opinion about that thing.
And I think that's evolved over time. I think when I started, I was just pinup of character I like, and then that kind of got boring, right? There's not enough to this, and then that's where that artistic flair and the effort and the concept art of something new and exciting came in. So I think a lot of times when we see artists that just regurgitating those opinions,
right,
they're probably newer to it, newer to this Artist Alley game, and just trying to do what they think will work.
Yeah.
And not taking risks yet. Because it is risky to put a spin on a known character and try to make it your own.
Now listen, I brought Mr. Roseborough all the way up from New York because I want him to service and install them for you. He's an expert.
That's a falsehood.
Mr. Roseborough, you want to wait outside, please?
I'm going to throw this over to Lyndon. You were presenting Justin's ideas and opinions at the show.
Right.
And so they didn't represent you as an artist.
Right.
But you often are at shows representing your own work. And since the vast majority of your work is books, graphic novels,
yep,
It's the idea.
Right.
No one has an opinion on it. They've never heard of that book before. How do you get people interested in your idea?
You talk to them. It's a lot. No, I'm not trying to belittle the amount of work that Justin has done because I've seen how hard.
No, let's do it.
But when it comes to the table sell,
Yeah.
my table is harder to sell work at than Justin's is
Mm-hmm.
because Justin has the artwork facing out. People immediately have a response to it. Often
They form an opinion.
Well,
So
they
I'm
know
getting it.
exactly what they're getting. There's
Yeah,
no
right.
mystery to that Gundam poster.
Right.
It is exactly that.
Whereas I sell original books, and I need to often need to explain to someone what this book is.
It's a mystery what's inside.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I like this definition. I want to say that by your definition, all opinions were once ideas,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That's something like because Dracula was an original idea at some point. So
I
that's
think actually
something about-
Carmilla came first.
He's also got one of those.
Did you know that?
There's a con for Carmilla. Hey, did you know that? Did I tell you about that?
Oh,
I think I told
yeah.
you. That. Anyway, so there's that, and I think that it's interesting how what you're talking about is like people agree, or people who have the same opinion as you, or just like the way you presented this idea. It takes time to create good ideas, to refine ideas, as you say, but it also takes time to form opinions. And so some opinions are better than others. So I think that's what you're talking about when it comes to the fan art, was when someone's just going to go ahead and, okay, let's see how well I can draw Batman today.
Yeah.
And they're just going to go ahead and, oh, that's pretty good. Looks just like the comic book. People are not necessarily going to be interested in that, right? Because it's not interesting or new.
It's not their opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just presenting the same argument we've seen.
the same idea.
Yeah, the same idea.
Replicating the idea.
Yeah. So I arranged maybe you didn't notice this, but when I first started setting up my booth, Chasing Art was already, the glowing pillars of Chasing Art were already present. So I arrived, I'm right next door, and I've got also a 3-table setup because we got one table as a guest, and then we booked 2 other tables for ourselves. So that's how that works, dear listener. If you're wondering how come you can't book 3 tables, that's the secret sauce. Be invited as a guest and then ask for more space.
Oh, I have a table story when
Right.
you're done.
So I'm looking at the giant, brightly colored, super family-friendly pillar that is going to make everyone go, oh, I'm safe here in these bright colors. And I said, okay, well, I have to rearrange my booth. I put my scariest, weirdest banner adjacent to that, so that by contrast, there would be no mistaking the delineation of the booths, which I wasn't worried about so much. But I've seen this work very well in the past, so I did it again. Because what happens is a family comes up.
Somebody is not into my work.
That is
Yeah.
right. They're like,
To yours.
and so many couples would come to that watershed place between our 2 booths, and some would go, they would look at each other, and then the one would point to the right, oh, this one's me, and the other one would point to the left, oh, this one's me.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to separate at this busy show, right? They're just, so the stuff, people who are looking for the horror and the sword and sorcery and the telepathic propaganda, they're only 10 feet from the people who are in the beautiful colored land of glass that is Chasing Artwork, right? So it was a really nice, but I did it on purpose.
For that
Right.
juxtaposition
Yeah.
of styles, of genres. Yeah.
That's right. And so the idea that like somebody's busy booth is somehow going to hurt you, I reject that notion outright. Like the more you can be where the traffic is, the better. And if the traffic all came for someone, that's great. They do not.
Tell that to the glowerers.
Yeah, well, I am speaking to the glowerers. Like the thing that the glowerers are forgetting is that there was a whole bunch of people in that aisle who stayed and lingered, and they could have done something with
They were
it.
exposed to that other table's stuff, and it just didn't resonate.
That's right.
Yeah.
Didn't resonate, but also they did not take advantage. And the simple way they could have taken advantage is to have said, hello, welcome. And those people would have turned around and taken a look.
Yeah.
You can't force anyone to buy anything at a convention. All you can do is be a pleasant ambassador of your work.
Yeah,
And
the
so-
carnival barking method of, like, when somebody has no interest in your booth and you shouted them to come over, does it work?
It works. People do it. It works. It's worked on me.
I don't.
It's worked on me, so it must work. Yeah, it must work.
You guys were talking earlier about tables. I just wanted to have this great Montreal story about one year I couldn't make it to the Montreal Comic Con. This is like back in like 2014, and I sent my parents to do the Montreal Comic Con for me. And Montreal does not have end caps. Very famously does not have end caps.
Right.
You can, when you're booking your table, you can request a corner. So you can pay a bit extra money, and then your table is now on the corner. So you have the aisle, and you have another aisle, which half of your booth gets access to, right? You have a corner booth. So the show finished. My parents did a great job, and they're rebooking for next year. And they don't really fill out the rebook forms, but you rebook and you pay. And they were trying to figure out this corner thing.
I didn't fill that out for you, by the way.
That's okay. So they're rebooking, and they didn't quite know about the corner thing, so they went ×2 and paid for 2 corners.
Right.
And paid their monies, and a year goes by, and the Montreal Comic Con happens again, and I go, and I've got my stuff, and I'm looking for my spot, and it is an aisle of inline tables and one single end cap for the Chasing Artwork booth down the entire Artist Alley row.
But you're the only end cap that's ever existed at Montreal.
Well, hold on. So I'm setting up my table, and I'm looking around, and
the glowerers.
People are kind of like side-eyeing me as they're setting up, and so the organizer came by and was like, yeah, you paid for 2 corners. We didn't know what to do with you, so we gave you an end cap. And so I'm like, God, this is amazing. So I looked like I had like a guest table for the show, and it was a great show. And at the end, I went to like rebook. I'm like, I'm rebooking that again. And she's like, yeah, okay. We've had a lot of people ask for this same thing.
I wonder why.
So, okay, but you're clearly not happy about it. So the next year, there was now 5 or 6 end caps. Because everybody who went and requested...
Wait, those end caps were because of you?
Because of me.
Oh my gosh.
So people had asked, like, whatever he did, I want that as well because of
a different Gregory.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Curry have started this trend. And then after that year, I went to rebook again, and they're like, no end caps. We are putting an end to the end... Because after those 5 or 6, every single artist was trying to book an end cap now, and they're like, we're going back to the no end caps.
Right. I don't understand no end caps. End caps are nice.
I don't get it either, but I will say that the traffic flow, now I'm just being, for the first time, I'm really thinking about, while I was walking around in that show, maybe it's a traffic flow thing. The traffic flow is smoother as a result of no end caps.
Interesting.
So the reason Montreal Comic Con has no end caps anymore is Tracy and Greg Curry.
Oh my gosh. I just got my new passport, which makes me think of Gregory Curry, and I'm Gregory Kmichuk, and you're Gregory also.
My legal name is Gregory.
That's right. Yeah. And I have never had a less flattering, more flight risk photo than is on my current passport. So I'm looking forward to our San Diego trip, and I'm definitely going to... No, I don't think so, but I will definitely be separated from the line on the strength of that photo, for sure.
I was telling Gregory about our story. The last time I was in Montreal was us blowing through the airport trying to get to New York Comic Con on time after our flight was delayed this past year.
I don't remember that.
And
I was sick.
Steven getting held up at the border crossing because he told the guy he was going to New York Comic Con, and the guy wanted to talk about New York Comic Con.
Yeah, he got held up because wanted to nerd out.
And our flight to Montreal had been delayed. So we were like sprinting through the airport to try and get our connecting flight to New York. And Steven's stuck at the border with the border crossing agent talking about New York Comic Con. And Justin and I are at the door, like, holding our watches in the air, being like, we have to
Meanwhile, the customs agent is like, who's your favorite Batman? Yeah.
Nerds everywhere.
Yeah, they are everywhere. They really are everywhere.
Other notes from the Montreal Comic Con. The amount of time I spent having to replace prints into my portfolio because they had just come from Gregory's booth, where he encourages people to take prints out of the books.
And I've trained a whole generation of, they are ne'er-do-wells.
Which is not how the Chasing Artwork booth works.
Nobody's booth works that way. I think I may have inadvertently, speaking of trends like the end cap problem, I have inadvertently created a problem. I found, and it's all based on a stupid little bother, a bugbear, if you will, as we speak about in the studio.
No one says that.
Yes, some people say that. Everyone should say that.
A plague on them. That's my motto. And the more money I make, the better I can take care of my own.
when you flip through the portfolios, there's a little bit of physics involved. There's a tiny creep in the portfolio where every time it's flipped, there's a little bit of shearing force on it, and it creeps up a little bit inside the portfolio. So if the top is open, it eventually creeps out of the protective sleeve if you're at a busy show.
Like shuffle upwards.
It shuffles up and
it looks
out.
disheveled after a couple flips.
And so one day I was so frustrated, but great because it's a busy show and that's why it's happening. So amazing, but they get damaged. And so then the display ones can't ever be sold and they just become waste and trash. And I was like, there's got to be a way to fix this. And I just was like, ding. And I turned all the work upside down in the portfolios. Turn the portfolios upside down, and now when they creep up, they creep towards the bottom, which there's no aperture, and the opening is toward the customer, and now they're doing the work of keeping the portfolio neat, and now I have less work to do. So that was the original beginning, and then at a busy show, I started to run out, and I said, oh, well, you can take the last one out of the book. It's open on your side, and when people started doing that, I was like, wait. People could always be helping themselves. And so now I've been training. This is
something people who do stickers always talk about, like once they set up this self-help, like set up like a whole bunch of shelves where you just,
whatever you want.
Yeah, buy two, get one free, and they get to pick it. So you don't have to have inventory behind you. You don't have to be part of that.
Yeah.
They pick out their art, and then they come to you with it all ready to go.
That's right. And so I found that what we call here at the studio a loaded portfolio, which is like 3 or 4 pieces per sheet, right? Or per place instead of one for display, would allow the customers to pick and choose what they want. And I also found I have a pretty diverse. I have sort of 5 main types of work. And so if someone's a fan of me, not all my work pairs well together necessarily. And so if someone's wanting to buy a couple, I would encourage them to pull it from their portfolio and take a look at them side by side and see if in fact they want to hang them together. And so it became this very slow evolution of the last few years where people can help themselves and like take part. But now they go to other booths
with the exact same portfolios
and they're pulling them out of people's portfolios, but those people have done it sort of quote unquote the normal way.
You can't pull the prints out towards
it's hard to pull them out without damaging, but they think they're supposed to, so now they're pulling them out from the tops through people's displays.
My hackles go straight up when I see somebody reaching in my portfolio and pulling art out.
Right. So if that's happened to you, dear listener, at one of your shows, it may be a bad habit I've created. I didn't do it on purpose. I did it for the consumer's benefit.
The other bad habit that I'm going to blame Gregory for, though, I'm sure he'll argue with me, is
picking on Greg.
The number of people over the weekend that I'd be conducting a sale with you, Justin, say over the table.
Yeah.
I'm finishing a sale up. Between us on the table is a portfolio. You've already chosen your stuff. So you and I'm bagging your prints on top of the portfolio and tucking everything away. We're having a nice interaction. And someone else is shouldering in to start flipping through the book while you and I are having a conversation.
What does that have to do with me?
I'm sure it has to do with you.
I am not to do. That's not me.
I
That's
just see you be like, oh yeah, go ahead, flip through. We're just talking here.
Well, I mean, I am cordial, but that's not my fault if someone else is rude.
That's why we have those awesome thumbnails where it's a hard shell case with everything on a little grid, and you can hand it to people who are waiting their turn to get at the portfolio.
These people want to flip through the book.
Yeah.
They don't want to wait. They don't want me talking to anyone else anymore. They don't care about the other people's sale. They want in on that portfolio right now. The thumbnails will not satisfy.
They want what they want, and I want it now. Okay, so
Montreal was great.
Montreal was great.
Best part, worst part?
That's our opinion of Montreal. So now we're in the opinion portion of the show. Best part, worst part of Montreal Comic-Con for you.
The trip. Doesn't have to just be the convention.
Sure.
Your Montreal trip. Best part, worst part.
Ooh, I'm just going to stick to the convention because first time in the city. No offense to Montreal Comic-Con, but I had a great time in Montreal, the city. Like I said, I liked stretching my brain and interacting with people in French. Mm-hmm. That was a lot of fun. The worst part was definitely not having proper internet service during the weekend. But the rest of the show was pretty smooth. I didn't get to walk the floor or anything. Like I was behind the booth the whole time.
Damn, it's a good floor too. That's too bad.
Yeah, I missed out on walking the floor.
Really,
sure,
both you guys.
Yeah, it was really.
It's because we spent our mornings going to La Finca for coffee.
Yeah.
And they have a
was
line
worth it.
out the door.
It was worth it.
Yeah, I've never had a smoother espresso.
Yeah, it was worth it.
Oh,
Every
the cinnamon rolls.
oh, it can an entire trip be
This
summed up to a
episode of
flaky
Super
cinnamon
Pulp
roll? I'm
Gregory
not sure
didn't
we could-
believe me about
No.
these cinnamon rolls.
I was doubtful.
This is, a couple times Gregory doubted me, and he was proven wrong.
It's true. Justin, Lyndon made many culinary choices that I doubted, and I would like to go on record as saying, no, you can trust Lyndon's opinion on food places and confectionery. I think it's important.
Do you remember the Alabama?
The Alabama was
You
excellent.
came over to me with this chicken sandwich that we
Yeah.
bought called the Alabama, and he was like, "Huh,
That's a pretty good.
pretty good sandwich." And I look at him, I'm like,
I left my booth. Yeah, I
what,
left my.
what were you expecting?
No, I didn't trust you. I just thought we met a. You're better with names always than I am. Who was the football player we met?
Oh, his name was Yanni something.
Yanni. Yeah, we met I don't know anything
Red
about football from the Red Blacks, but we met this football player who noticed that I was drawing, and we were just talking about like doing the thing you love, and that was a really. I don't know if that's the best part, but it's right close to the best part. It's like having a real human conversation from two completely different worlds, like sports world versus the art
CFL
world.
player, or former CFL player. He had just been cut from the team.
Right? But talking about like finding a way to do the thing you love
Yeah.
for the reason you want to do it
Right.
versus the way that other people expect you to do it.
Twisting your hobby into
Yeah,
your
yeah.
grind.
And that was a really good moment, which
Yeah.
really doesn't have anything to do with the show, just has to do with again a culinary choice that Lyndon made. So we ended up eating.
Actually, that was a recommendation from Steph, showrunner of Montreal Comic Con. She
Yeah.
gave us a good poutine spot.
Great.
She did. She really did.
Sorry,
Work-
poutine.
The worst part really boils down to, I think, was
Was it not having water in our Airbnb?
no, that wasn't even that
was
bad.
the worst part.
The worst part for me was probably the 5-hour delay that my flight. The worst part was being lied to repeatedly by the airport staff as to why there was a delay, and I could tell there was something up.
Wasn't this a bomb?
Yes, it turned out there was a good reason why they didn't tell us
Yeah.
in a crowded airport why it was that the flight was delayed, but there was a Canada-wide bomb threat, and so all flights were delayed. Yeah. Yeah. So all things considered, I would say.
But they made it up. Do you want to tell the story of your luggage?
Do I? I guess so. Shout out to Air Canada for I arrived and all my bags were overweight to the point where they were like no.
These are not allowed on the plane.
Like after, I think Air Canada, after 75 pounds, we will not
we
touch
won't do it. But I didn't know that.
because
so-
WestJet is 100 pounds.
That's right. And I'm used to WestJet, and so I got
They're
there.
just tougher at WestJet. They can lift heavier things.
That's right. Fly. I won't get into that. But yeah, flight was delayed.
Hire stronger people.
I'd already been notified of the big long delay, but I was in the line to check my bags, and so I'm worried because should I even check my bags? Because normally if it's too long, you're not allowed to. So am I going to be stuck in the airport with all these big heavy luggage? No, they were very helpful until they weighed them. And they're like, these can't go. And I was like, okay, well, they've got to go. They always go. This is what I go with. But now that I have 5 hours or whatever, I guess I'll book a flight on your competitor. I don't know what else to do. I have the insurance, so I'll cancel the flight and I'll go somewhere else. And he was like, well, or we have time. Could we figure out something? And I was like, what do you suggest? And he literally looked me in the eye and said, I don't know. But we turned my 3 heavy bags into 5 heavy bags, and they checked the extra ones for no cost.
Really?
And I think what it came down to, I was pleasant, I wasn't angry, and I was firm in my resolve that I'll just go somewhere else. If I got all day, I might as well go somewhere else then. And they didn't want to lose the sale or lose the habit. They asked how often I fly, which is a high number. How often do I fly Air Canada? They asked that too, and I said almost never.
Yeah.
And so they were clearly trying to make an effort to win me over.
So it almost worked out. Had you been rushed, had you had
Yeah.
no time at the airport, this could have been a real
There's no way.
disaster. Yeah.
If I had been on time and the flight had been on time and my bags had been overweight, I would not have been able to fly. I would have had to ship them freight, which would have been $600 a bag.
Jeez.
So there's no way I would have brought it. So I would have had to cancel that flight in a hurry, try to rebook in a hurry, and it would have been a big mess. And so the bad thing turned into a not so bad thing.
Oh, speaking of freight, Justin,
Yes.
you are It has been brought to our attention and advised to us that when we all arrive in Toronto Fan Expo, which is the next location of the Palette, that the three of us should open it together.
Together.
Is it going to explode or what?
We packed it tight.
It's very tight. Yeah.
It's very tight.
Because Gregor, you added a bunch of stuff.
I added some stuff.
Because
to it.
after
We sold a lot of canvases.
I was going to say there shouldn't have been much.
Yeah.
There should have been lots of room.
There was lots
It
of
was
room.
just my stuff.
But the reason being is that our pallet shipper person who was there while we were packing it up, we put all the light stuff on top and all the heavy, the medium stuff in the middle and the heavy stuff on the bottom. But now it's quite a bit taller than you.
Yeah.
Right? So the suggestion was once you peel it off, if it starts to tip, you want to make sure that there's many hands. So this is us saying to you, don't unwrap it till we arrive.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're there to catch in our loving arms, whatever comes apart.
Gregory added a bag that is not of a rigid shape.
That's
so if things shift a bit, they could come sliding off when you unwrap it.
Yeah.
But it's tight.
Okay.
It was all fine. It's labeled. It's sent off. But just don't open it on your own.
I appreciate the skillful way that Lyndon, who has training as a lawyer, went on record as making it all my fault. I like the way
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I like the way you did that.
I mean, whose bag is it?
So, in closing, this is what I would say to you, dear listener, about the Montreal Comic Con specifically, but in general at shows. If you have a strong opinion about a character, a fandom, an idea, and you want to express it your way, go for it. Go for it completely. Express your opinion as completely as you can in that work. And that is going to make more of an impact than repeating someone else's visual opinion that you have seen 100 times. If it's your own original idea, don't get discouraged if it takes a while for that idea to form an opinion in the minds of other people. You have to return and return and return. And so that is partially why we talk about the inside-outside approach of having some fan art, having your original idea.
Always been my,
Right? Have a few cover songs and then your original songs when you're starting out, right? So this is our practical advice to you is be as much yourself as you can be at a show. Don't begrudge anybody else's success. Recognize that one day you may have some success, and so how you do small things is how you'll do everything. So also, a last bit of advice to you, tangible advice, is that the person who runs the bookings at Montreal Comic Con really likes raspberries. We found out they really like raspberries. Fresh raspberries is your way to get that end cap if you're not allowed to have them ever again. This has been Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. I am Gregory Kamichuk, encouraging you to join the fight and make comics.